So these two mafia hitmen are walking in the woods in the middle of the night. One says to the other, man, this place sure is creepy. The other's like, yeah, you're telling me. I gotta walk out of this place alone. Hey kids, Adam here. Welcome to episode 3 in the Remixing a Song with Reaper Stock plugin series. We're going to cover guitars. If you haven't seen drums and bass, I'll put a card of the playlist up in the corner here. Take a look at those. You don't necessarily have to watch them in order, but I may kind of go through things a little faster because I went through them in a lot of detail in the first video, a little bit less detail in the second video. Let's get into guitars for this song. So we have a number of distinct guitar sounds. The first, it's kind of similar to what the bass was. There is a sound for the verses, which is this kind of like auto-wah envelope filter sound that sounds like this. We have the pre-chorus sound, which is a more of a distorted, more crunchy guitar, we'll call it. And we have the chorus sound, which there's a lot of stuff going on with the keyboards in this song and the chorus. So guitars, we wanted to kind of back those off a little bit. That's what these sound like. And then we have a clean, like, chorusy guitar, chorus being the effect and not the chorus in the song, because there's no versey effect, but there's a in the bridge. Lots of stuff to cover. Let's dive right into it. So you'll notice on the left is the green tracks, and then the folder tracks are this dark gray. On the right, this kind of like salmon pink color. And I didn't choose it. I right clicked and I chose choose random color. And this is what it gave me. And then I did it again on the folders. It gave me this weird purple color. Sorry. Let's get right into the comparisons here. Let's start with this kind of envelope filter guitar. Now, unlike the bass video, this is recorded on the way in. So I'm dealing with the sounds as they came in. Now, how this was recorded, this was done through a Line 6 Helix, which is had stereo outs. Dylan had this kind of complex setup where he had different stereo effects going through different channels. So we took a left and a right out. And for a couple of these, we just did a single take. And for one of them, we had them do 2 takes. I'll get to that when we get there. So then I just processed these on the folder tracks themselves. All right, so the source, the 1173 is like magic on guitars. This 1.6K band is just kind of this like magic sauce you can dial in. And then I'm using a CLA2A compressor. It's a very simple setup. There's not a lot of work that I have to do on the guitars. Not a lot of things I have to carve out. They kind of sit in their own spot. On the Reaper side, there is this plugin called JS-RBJ 1073 EQ, which is a 1073 emulator. You can see there's a high pass filter, which is down here. There's a low shelf, which is here. There's a mid frequency, which is this mids. There's highs, and there is no preamp section. So what you're missing in these plugins is the kind of like analog goodness. So what I did was starting with the high pass filter. I left it at 160, and they have the same settings. It's like the dial only. These are drop downs. I'm not using the lows in this, even though they're turned on. I don't have anything dialed in. I am using a mid bump of 4.7. I just chose the same thing at 1.6K, and the highs just happen to be 4.7 as well. Pure coincidence, nothing I planned there. And I left that at 4.7. I did notice there was a little volume difference. So because I am pushing the preamp here, I am adjusting the output to match, but it's not 100%. So I did add 1 dB of gain. And then for compressor, using an LA2A. Now I did a little bit of research. There's a link to the John Tidy article in the drums video, and I'll put that in the description here. He talks about using ReaComp as kind of a compression engine to emulate certain compressors. I took some of that. I took another article that I found and found that the LA2A is kind of like a 4:1 ratio, 10 millisecond attack, somewhere between 50 and 80 millisecond release, and the knee size of half a dB or so. and then dial in your threshold. I'm not doing much compression here on these guitars. In fact, you can see the meter's not going to go too high up at all. It's kind of just every once in a while going up to 1 dB, maybe 1.5, 2. So what I did is I used ReaComp with those settings. I am using a little bit more because I found it sounds more similar to the LA2A. And then I added some makeup gain, just 2 dB of makeup gain to volume match. Let's go back and forth between these two, see what they sound like. We'll start with the original Waves plugins. You'll notice the waves are a little brighter. I could change that. I just felt it didn't matter as much. Once it gets in the mix, you're not even going to tell. It's not going to be like you're never going to play these two side by side for anything other than like a video like this. So I didn't mess with it. I thought it sounded just fine. Let's move on to the next guitars. So this is going to be this pre-chorus kind of crunchy guitars. So for recording, what we did here is we just double tracked. So even though he's doing a right and left out of his line 6 helix, we just took both of those tracks and panned them to the left. He did another performance, took both of those, panned them to the right. In fact, there's a video up here, I'll put a card to it, about how to get really wide guitars. And I use this song and these guitars to do it. And you can see how I'm doing it in there. I'm going to replicate things in here and show you this, but that video really kind of covers what I'm doing and why. For these guitars, again, 1073 and LA2A are kind of like my go-to 2 plugins for guitars. They work on like 90% of the stuff I do. So on the Reaper side, I ended up having to do a little bit different. There's no high band on the Wave side. On the Reaper side, I added just over 2 dB, and that was what we were talking about in the first guitars. It wasn't as bright. I wanted to add a little brightness. The mid band is the same at 3.8. Then I added 1 dB of gain just to kind of make up for things. And the same exact settings on the ReaComp, I just dialed it in to kind of make the meters match. So if we watch the meters here between the LA2A and the ReaComp, you'll see they're close. They're within a dB of each other. If you're dealing with half a dB here and there, the ear can't really pick a lot of that up. Don't worry about matching these up exactly. The 1073 and the LA2A are used on the guitar folder. And then on each individual track, I did the technique that I used in that How to Get Wide Guitars. So if I bring up both, just one of the right and left channels here, you'll see that I'm doing a cut here and a boost here and a cut there. And then taking out some mid frequencies that I thought didn't sound very good, low mids. So basically what I did here is I just matched these up. So there's a high pass filter, not convinced it really does anything because I have one on the folder channel. That's a story for another day. So from bottom up here, I have a low, kind of a low mids cut here at 290 Hertz. I have a boost of 3 dB at 1050 Hertz, and I copied that exactly. And then I have a shelf cut of 3 dB at 1.8K. And then on the right side guitar, I'll just bring up one of these so we don't have to look at all 4 tracks here. I did the opposite. So I kept the low mid cut in there. Where I boosted here, I cut here. Where I cut here, I boosted there. So these were easy EQ moves to do. And the other thing I did is I have a right and a left verb. What it is, it's the exact same copy of the short verb that I went through in the drum video, but I panned it hard right and hard left. So if you go all the way over here, these hot pink here, I have my regular room verb, and then I have the verb left, which is pan 100% left, and the verb right, which is pan 100% right. I take the left guitar, I send it to the right reverb, take the right guitar, I send it to the left reverb, and that gives a little more width and a little more separation. So let's do back and forth on these guitars in the pre-chorus. You can hear comparison. Again, they're very close. You can hear some tonal differences. I could probably screw around with the EQs a little bit more, but either of these guitars are going to sound great in the mix. We'll listen to those after we go through all these. Let's get to the chorus guitars here. So the chorus guitars were just one take. And again, you'll be surprised to see that I'm using the 1173 and the LA2A. This is getting old by now because it's pretty simple. Same settings that I'm using here. I have a mid bump. I didn't do the high shelf. I added 1 dB of gain, and then I matched compression to pretty much match it. Let's just listen to these. Start with the original again. Not really much difference. They're very close and very similar. And because they're such a far away part in the context of the mix, there's really not a lot to play with there. So now let's go to the bridge, the kind of chorusy, affected, clean, shimmering guitars. You will be very surprised to know that I'm using the 1073 and the LA2A on these. And what I'm doing here is I'm actually doing a cut of about 4 dB in the highs because I thought they came through too much. So in the Reaper side, I'm doing the same exact cut, the same boost in the mids, and a 1 dB thing. I have the LA2A ReaComp thing going on. Then we have something a little bit different. I thought, and let me play these guitars without this NLS channel here. We wanted a little more crunch to them. And that's why I took off some of the highs, because it was pretty harsh. We didn't really want distortion. We wanted more of like a preamp boost. And looking back at it, I think I probably should have just used Kramer tape on this, or the Kramer HCL, which I actually use on bass, but I could get that like preamp analog kind of pushing the preamps tube thing going on. We decided to use the NLS channel. I used 2 of them stacked because I cranked it all the way up to 12. And here's what it sounds like afterwards. It's subtle, but I bet if you would expand the waveforms out, they would kind of, shape off and round off the tops of the waveforms so they weren't as peaky. To kind of simulate that on the Reaper side, I use this JS Waveshaping Distortion at a really, really low setting. I only use this 20%. I'll put a card to a video here that I did on how to get distorted bass using Reaper stock plugins. And I noticed that in order to get actual distortion out of this thing, you have to put it up to over 90%. So just putting it at 20 is going to add just a little bit more, almost saturation. And then I noticed that it was adding a lot of volume. So I put the JS volume adjustment and brought it down. I think as I found in this video, the Waveshaping Distortion could be a replacement for a saturation plugin. Got to be very, very careful on it because you can cook the sound pretty easily. And then I added these to my right and left reverbs. Let's do a before and after. Let's listen to these guitars in the mix, and we'll go through each section and do a comparison.
You are so beautiful. Can't keep my eyes off of you. You are so wonderful. Don't know what I'm gonna do.
And then the pre-chorus.
Hey, yeah. Break away. Yeah. I want you to stay. Yeah. Come on, won't you stay? Because I
Chorus guitars.
can't keep my eyes off you. No matter what I do, I can't keep my eyes off you. No matter what I do, I can't.
And finally the bridge.
The groove is just getting started. Your moves, they can't complain. The groove is just getting started. Don't ever go away.
So that is the guitars. they were pretty straightforward. For the most part, it's EQ compression and saturation like everything else in mixing. 1073, there is a one-to-one, kind of one-to-one replacement plugin in Reaper. In that 73 plugin, there is almost like a LA2A setting, to use in ReaComp to make it act the same way. And we did some little things with the crunchiness, and then a lot of it was just EQ, making one side, high and cutting the other side and doing the opposite. And you can do ReaEQ with that very easily. Anyway, next video will be keyboards. There are a number, like 5 or 6 different keyboard sounds, so that one should be fun as well. In the meantime, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I noticed that a number of you aren't subscribed or watching this. It would be great to have my artificial subscription numbers go up and make me feel a little happy every time I see one of those come in. Ring the little bell so you can get notified every time I annoy you with a video, or maybe don't, in case, like, if you don't want to subscribe because you don't want to ring the bell, then subscribe and don't ring the bell. How's that? Share the video out to friends. Keep this in mind. And if you're doing any projects, you're looking for plugin replacements, hopefully I've been able to help you out here. And until next time, have yourselves an amazing week. It's a little closer, so hopefully that'll... Why am I talking about the goddamn reverb? The 1073 in this... I am not necessarily a Man City fan. I just thought the jersey was cool. Sorry, maybe.